Good afternoon, friends. Stephen Ben-Nun here with Israeli News Live. And boy, guys over here on Patreon, I know it's been a while since we've talked. And yeah, I do know the article from New Scientist is dated November 16th, 2016. That was the mega quake that struck in New Zealand. And look at what it did to the asphalt on that road right there. We're talking about some thick asphalt. You want to talk about turning the land into an ocean wave there. That's a good idea of exactly what a pretty serious earthquake can do. And I had been saying to you guys for quite some time, I need to get more videos up here, over here on our Patreon channel to share with you guys the things that we are aware that's coming up. And so I pulled up just to see if there was anything about megaquakes and things like that with New Zealand, because one of the things that I'm being told, and let me just see if I can go to Google Maps so that we could take a look at this, and we'll put New Zealand in on the maps there, that they're anticipating some pretty crazy things here. Let me put New Zealand on here. From what I understand, they're saying that May, June is a real probability. Now, probability does not mean that it will happen. It just means it's a great chance that it could happen. A mega quake that will affect New Zealand, but it's not just New Zealand. Let's back out a little bit here. We're talking about a quake that's going to go all the way up from New Zealand to Japan. That's exactly the type of quake they're talking about having happen. Again, May, June is the probability from what the scientists are saying in Washington. And they're talking about that if it does happen, and it does have that big of a quake as they're anticipating, that Japan will be devastated. In fact, Japan was put on alert already that there is a very real probability that this could happen. And of course, and as I was told, New Zealand would take the brunt of this quake. But they said that could also potentially affect the west coast of the United States with tsunamis. Now, I was not told what type of tsunamis, how big, 10 foot, 15 foot, 20 foot, maybe even as big as 30 foot. So I have really no clue as to how big of a tsunami that would be if, in fact, it were to affect the west coast of the United States. But that's what they're talking about right now. And they're talking about, of course, weather changes, all types of anomalies that are really going to be strange this year. And then again, they're talking about in November, again, another high risk of earthquakes. I wasn't told where the next set would be, if that's still going to be the New Zealand, Japan type of corridor. I do know, and I have wondered, I didn't ask the question, but I have been wondering about this because I was told that within about 2-year period, they're expecting a quake so massive that it would connect the oceans between our ocean and the center of the earth. All right, so let's kind of look at wow, that's interesting just to think of that, right? Because there's that trench right there along, like you see Japan's kind of like on a sandbar, so to speak, and then you got that huge deep trench right there that goes out into the Atlantic. Pretty doggone deep there. So the question is, they're saying that could open up, and I'm just curious. Let's see, center of the earth, and let's just put hollow, because I know that this is exactly. Let me just see if I can get some images for that for you. Speaking of that, there was someone had mentioned one time before to me, and this might be a good picture here for that. Hollow Earth, the biggest cover up. Let's see, that's another one right there. I've seen that image before. Where they show there's like 2 different entrances there. I don't know about the 2 different entrances. However, I do know that there is an entrance in Antarctica, if I'm not mistaken, that is so big that if you're flying a plane, you could fly right into the opening that goes into the center of the earth and never miss a beat. That's exactly what they say. You could just fly right in, never miss a beat, not even realize that you've gone into it. So, no, whether or not that's a real picture, that's kind of an interesting look, right? So, I don't know the answer to that, but that's what I've been told. And so I find it fascinating. But anyway, the reason why I bring up center of the earth, though, is the whole idea is that there are oceans inside, as I've said to you guys before, oceans inside the center of the earth. And they're talking about a massive quake that could open and connect our ocean with their ocean. As a result, they're expecting those unusual creatures that are in the center of the earth to actually come up to our side of the earth if all this takes place. I don't know the answer to all these things, but anyway, I'm just sharing it with you guys because those of you here on Patreon, you're tough. You don't have a problem with being able to hear these type things, and I can't wait also to get into this whole thing about this Saudi prince about being the Antichrist. And I don't know. Just out of curiosity, I ran it over there on a search there, and there was one article. Here it is, right here. This guy's saying he's not. Al-Walid bin Talal is not the Antichrist. Now, I have no clue who the prince is, or even if it's even a prince out of Saudi Arabia that's supposed to be the Antichrist. But I am being told that there is a Saudi individual that will actually be the Antichrist. And there's something to do with Neom. There's something to do with Jabal el-Laz, the mountain that Ron Wyatt discovered to be the true Mount Sinai. So I'm very interested in all this, and I'm also interested in putting together a video for you guys about Judges. Remember when we looked at that scripture over there in the book of Judges the other day? I mean, talk about fascinating to me. What is that? Judges chapter 5. Let me pull that up real quick and see if I can pull that up for you guys again. But yeah, we were in the book of Judges. And I think it's chapter 5. Let's see. I'm almost positive I can find it. Yep, chapter 5. It's got to be verse 20 then, right? And then, oh, that was another one I forgot to even tell you guys about, right? They chose new gods. Then was war in the gates. Oh my gosh. How interesting this was, right? They chose new gods, right? You get down here. The kings came, they fought the kings of Canaan and Tanakh by the waters of Megiddo. They took no gain of money. They fought from heaven. The stars they put on in their courses fought against Sisera. Literally, it's in the staircase or in the gate, the way, whatever you want to call it. That lets you know like a portal. Now, I want to do a video to really kind of share with you something that I find fascinating on this, and that is Israel. You have to remember, Israel was always fighting supernatural type of wars, right? I mean, we think of it just as a bunch of guys running around with swords and bows and arrows and things like that, but God would intervene, and when Yahweh intervened on Israel's behalf, we would always see things like, like in the case of Jericho, they march around the city, 7 times, let out a shout, couldn't speak until then, and all of a sudden the walls fall down. Come out of Egypt, the Egyptians, they get ready to cross over, and as they go on dry ground, the waters close up, and all the Egyptian army is swallowed up into the waters. There's some supernatural things going on. And so if Yahweh had to go through a supernatural means to be able to deal with the people that Israel had to fight against, there must have been some interesting supernatural abilities of these other armies, or Israel wouldn't have had to have Yahweh doing this type of battling for them. So, therefore, I am really curious about taking you guys a little deeper on this. So I'm going to really go a little deeper myself into the study of these things and see exactly what we can pull up out of this. So I'm really looking forward to that. Blessings to you all. Thank you for listening. Stephen Ben-Nun with Israeli News Live here on our Patreon channel.